Today, in part 12 of this series, Dave will show us the tweaks he's made to get the engine running just right after the bike's first startup. He'll also give us a full budget breakdown on what this bike actually cost to buy and restore. We filmed a complete tyre change for this video, but it was too long to include, so we've uploaded it to our second channel for those of you who want to go into more detail. The link is in the video description. Let's get started.
Now we've got the tyre back on the rim. We just need to clean up the spline in the hub. It actually has got grease in here. Now I was going to use copper slip, but because it's got a lot of grease and I'm not going to get it all out, I'm going to put grease back in. We just make sure, well, there shouldn't be too much wear. We look for spline wear, and you detect this, I should have showed you before, when you've got a wheel and you move it, and there's movement between the sprocket and the wheel itself, but there was none on here. Just give this a white round. We have the spline on here. We just clean round here. We're just going to grab some grease now. We'll put some around the spline on there. We can now put the wheel back in onto the hub. Two things you've got to make sure about now, that we put the spacer back in. Let's get that in there first. A bit more. But in here we have a spacer. That has to go there. Then we have the speedo drive. Now try and get in line with the spline, and it's easy to keep the two slots horizontal. Then the drive, which has got the two pegs, so we push that up on there. That will go home like that. Now we need to lift up onto the spline. Just make sure the cable doesn't get caught under the exhaust bracket. Lift it up. And you just have to move it a little bit to find where it's happy to go onto a spline. If you don't quite get it first time, move it around. There you go. That's on the spline now. Now we have here the main spindle. Now grease or copper slip. I'm going to put a bit of copper slip on here now. You can use grease or copper slip. It just means that if you need to take this back out, it comes out easily, because you can get water. I've had these when you undo, it's tight to undo on the thread, and then it won't drift out. It won't come out. You should be able to pull these out. So if you lube that up, I haven't buffed it all up because we're going to take it out another time anyway. But just make sure we've got some lube on there. It makes it easy to push back through the bearings, and it goes through the centre of the hub. So then make sure that your spacer is on the inside. And just hold that up and offer your spindle to the centre. Now just hold your wheel up a little bit. And don't force it. It should pick up the centre. Now let's just wiggle it a little bit and turn it as you go. Now we should have picked up the thread on the other side. So just start spinning that round. Do as much as you can by hand. Just take the weight of the wheel so it's easy to wind that in. We don't need to do any adjustment on the back wheel because the adjusters are set. We've only taken it off from this side. So what we can do now, we can just wind this up. So when we got this in fully, like now, we just check our speedo. Make sure the cable is running straight, not kinked. So we keep that line straight. It's slightly downhill a little bit. You don't want it right down there, you don't want it right up in the air. So keep that cable running straight. Right, we're just going to do that hand tight now. I'm going to spin that wheel. And you can see the tyre looks okay on that rim. We just check the other side. Okay, yeah, when it comes to tightening the axle, make up something. You've probably got something you can use, put in there, and just get it as tight as you can by hand. And what I do there is just literally just hold on to that and give it a tap. That's all you need. Before you take your wheel out, it's this QD hub. Just make sure that the splines are good on the hub to the brake drum, because this is a brake drum at the back, and there's no movement at all. We looked at it just now and it was a good order, but I've had this in the past where there's been a bit of movement and I've had to reduce, there's a spacer inside the hub itself. I had to spin that, turn it down on the lathe, take a bit more off, so that the QD hub goes further onto the brake drum. It wasn't sitting properly on the splines, it wasn't going in properly, but that's good. And you're just checking that. That's good and central, that's good. No play in the wheel bearings. There we go, we're done. Right, since we had the bike going, I will explain to you what we've been doing to it. The most important thing was the ignition timing, just to make sure that was correct. Well, I don't do a run up with a strobe at high RPM. Now, when we set this up, we set it up with the degrees before TDC, 34 degrees I think it was. So when we run the bike up, I noticed it was running a little bit rich. The most important thing really before you start setting up your carburation is get your ignition timing correct. If you adjust that carb out and this is still retarded, you're still not going to get the right carburation. A retarded ignition will have the symptoms of being over rich. So what I was doing on here was I showed you we slacken these two screws off and we can turn the ignition assembly. Now when we set up this ignition as static, we had a line on the rotor and we had the mark on the actual module itself here, which was the A mark I think it was now. They were in line. But when we run this bike up, it was a little bit rich. I noticed the timing was a bit retarded. So by slacking off the two screws, top and bottom, and turning this assembly in a clockwise direction, I actually advanced the timing up slightly. Now, if you've over advanced that ignition timing, when you kickstart this, you get a compression and you kick the kickstarter down and it'll go bang, it'll come up, it almost kicks back. You know on the Gold Star when we've had it over advanced, it's kicked back, and one good kick it should go. That's slightly over advanced. Now, because it was very retarded, I just moved it round a little bit. It wasn't a lot. And just pinched the screws up and started it again. It's a lot smoother, crisp. And then I moved it back again to a little bit to where it was the first time. I just need to find the best position where it's not going to kick me back, but it's not running retarded. This is how I do it. You get the best setting. You're just before it starts kicking back. You can feel it. Now when we kick this over, you can push a Kickstarter down, you can almost push it over compression and she'll go into life and she'll run very smooth. It's not running really retarded. I don't want to run this engine at high RPM on a strobe, because you know, you're doing this stuff all the time, you get to know where it should be and where it should sound. You get that feel for an engine. So yeah, over advanced it will kick back. If it's over retarded, it won't pick up, it'll be quite flat. And if you try to adjust out the carburation, it'll be quite rich. Plugs will probably be a bit sooty. So getting that just moving that a fraction, it wasn't far out, just move that slightly in an advanced direction. I smoothed that engine out. So that's the first thing we've done. Then just lock the screws off. Now on the pilot air screw, when that screw is screwed in, it screws into a taper, and what it does, it reduces the air. So when the screw is right into the taper at the bottom, there'd be no air at all. So that's going to be just fuel, very rich. You unscrew this and so it's in for richness, out for weakness. So the more you screw that out, the weaker that will run. Some carburetors, Japanese carbs, the other way around. So preset is about 1.5. Now the throttle slide in there and the needle, I pushed the clip to hold the needle in the center position, but it actually jumped one hole. The needle was slightly too high. It meant too much fuel because it's tapered. So what we done, we took the slide out and drop the needle down one notch, so it's less fuel. And because this was a little bit retarded, this was making it run a little bit lumpy. It took several kicks to get it going each time. It shouldn't be like that. That screw now is set about 1.5. Now that gives you a slow running speed. That's what's controlling your mixture, low RPM. When the slide is at the bottom, until you pick the slide up, it's actually quite a way because then it comes onto the main needle. But you get your carburation right on your pilot air screw. And if it's quite lumpy, you do it when the engine's warm. The combination of screwing the screw in will make it run richer because it's closing up the taper. But if you get it too far out, when you open up the throttle, it will die on you. You want it to have a tick over where it's just slightly rich, slightly, because then it snaps away nicely. And obviously you've got your throttle stop screw here, your idle screw. So it's getting that right. But we'll run it up in a moment. We'll put the cover back on and you'll see how different it runs now. Yeah, these pipes, as you can see, are discoloured. There's a colour change here. Now, single skin pipes do this a little bit. But an over-retarded ignition setup, if it's over-retarded and that engine's been run fairly high RPM, they will blow up. A retarded engine runs hot, and this is the indication you get pipe go very blue. This has been discoloured for a long time. The other thing, over-advanced, I think I've said before, if you open the throttle up hard, you get that sound like a ting, 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 ting in the top of the engine. It almost sounds like a small end. It's like a knock, 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 knock. And that's where it's over advanced. That's another thing. So what you could do when you've got this sort of setup is you come back, take your cover off, and you just retard it a little bit. Just turn it a little bit. The best thing is you've got both screws. Undo the first screw, just nip it off and make sure you hold the module. When you undo the second one, because the wire there might pull, it might turn, you want to make sure when you slacken the second screw off, it hasn't moved. If you just unscrew both, it might have moved and you won't know where you are. You're going to start all over again. So very careful with that. But over advanced, you get pinking. Retarded, over retarded, you get discoloured pipes and a lot of excessive heat in the engine. And you can get like sooty plugs on tick over. And it won't tick over very well. But we're going to run this up for you now, drop it down on the floor and you'll see the difference. Just going to show you a hot start now. Ignition on, just fine compression. Okay, so the bike is finished. It's done as an everyday bike. The purchase price of the bike, I'll be honest with you, was £2,000. And as you remember, I explained the bike had been dismantled, the engine was out. Basically, it was all there. Now, my intention was to put it back together and use it as a daily bike to go to work on. Didn't intend to spend any more than necessary. I didn't cut corners, but it's not like I was doing a full restoration. I was using all the materials that were good and serviceable. So when we went to assemble the crankcase, we found some studs, the threads were damaged, so they were repaired, new studs made. We used the original main bearings and big end bearings and shells. They were fine, there was nowhere, we run with a pump on here, there was no metal discoloration and the white metal was still as new. So we started to build the engine up, and the parts I'll show you in a moment that have been listed here on my phone. It's been a good bike to put back together because, you know, when you buy something all in bits, you don't know whether it's all there or not. Only thing I had to find was for the oil pump, was a little ball and spring. Everything else was there. Okay, we put some new bits in, and I'll list to you now what I've got on my phone. We had a gasket set, we had a ring set, 24 oversize. We had a Kickstarter pinion gear because the gear was quite worn. I think people remember that. It's a tab washer kit for the engine. The cylinder head valves, we had 4 new valves, 2 inlets, 2 exhaust valves, and we had valve guides, new valve guides. Oil pump ball and spring, which I just explained. Fuel tank centre rubber. There was a rubber missing that's one thing that was missing, sorry, on the cycle parts. That goes on it's a bolt from the centre of the frame. So we fitted a new rubber in there. New fuel lines, which I had, the fuel pipes I had already in my stock. Engine oil, gearbox oil, in primary chain case oil, which I had. New rear tyre tube, we just fitted today. And basically all the parts in total come to £370. So with the purchase price £2,000, we're looking at £2,370, which I think was a pretty good deal really on a bike that is really worth a little bit of money now. But there are other things that everyone knows. The rims aren't fantastic. There's a dink in the front rim and also in the back rim. Now I think the bike's worth putting new rims on later. At a later date, I'm going to use the bike, and at a later stage when I'm not busy, I'll put new rims and new spokes, stainless steel spokes, and we've put some new rubber as well, new tyres. We've put some decent tyres, some road riders on there probably. Other than that, really, everything is as she's going to be. Might replace some of the rubbers, like footrest rubbers and the Kickstarter rubber, but everything else is good. So we're very lucky. Oh, silencers, the downpipes and the silencers. They're a little bit knocked around. They sound nice, these silencers, but we might put some new ones on there later on. But actually I quite like the bike. I didn't think I would fall in love with it, but it's not a bad bike. I should imagine it's quite responsive. It's got quite a high first gear, as you've probably seen just now. So yeah, it's really good. It starts really easily. You know, it's a one kick start now, but just after getting the ignition set up properly and the carburation, we're there. So yeah, all round, good bike, gone together really well.